There has been another assassination attempt on President Trump. This time it didn't get close, but there was a shootout near the White House. There were also injuries. Today, let's take a closer look at this incident. Here's what happened. On the 23rd local time, a gunman and police exchanged gunfire at the White House. At the time, President Trump was at the White House. It is reported that the gunman approached a checkpoint near the White House and fired at the police officers first. Reporters were inside the White House covering the news when gunshots were heard, prompting them to take emergency shelter inside the building. Following the sudden shooting, the U.S. Secret Service temporarily locked down the White House and told reporters outside to evacuate. At that time, a gunfight broke out, and it is said to have been very intense. A reporter from the American media outlet News Nation stated that there were between 25 and 30 consecutive gunshots. The specific details of the incident are still under investigation. However, it is certain that this was an attack targeting the White House. The shooter fired 3 pistol shots directly at the White House. FBI Director Kash Patel said the FBI was sent to support the U.S. Secret Service in the White House shooting response. He noted more information will be shared when available. There were also casualties. It has been reported that 2 people were injured during the shootout. The suspect was shot and is said to have died while being transported to the hospital. President Trump was staying at the White House to handle affairs such as nuclear negotiations with Iran, but since the shooter failed to enter the White House, there was no threat to his safety. The White House was on lockdown for 45 minutes before it was lifted. The shooter has been identified as a 21-year-old named Nash Best. The exact reason for attacking the White House is still unknown. According to sources, Nash Best was mentally unstable and believed himself to be Jesus. He had been repeatedly seen near the White House entrance, possibly because of this. A restraining order barred him from the White House, which he reportedly violated before. Currently, there have been several assassination attempts against President Trump and his family. Recently, there were even news reports that his eldest daughter, Ivanka Trump, was also targeted for assassination. It has been confirmed that Kataib Hezbollah, a pro-Iranian militia in Iraq, was found to have been plotting to assassinate Ivanka Trump. Sources said that Kataib Hezbollah had obtained maps showing the location and layout of Ivanka's Florida home, as well as the house's blueprints. Kataib Hezbollah also posted a map image on social media showing the area near Ivanka's home, saying, "Americans, look at this photo. Neither your luxury homes nor the Secret Service can protect you. We are currently in the surveillance and analysis stage. Our revenge is only a matter of time," they wrote. No action has been taken, but such signs have been detected. The concern is greater now because this incident has happened more than once. This is the 5th attempted attack on President Donald Trump. Looking at the timeline, it's clear how dangerous the atmosphere in the United States has become. The first incident occurred on July 13, 2024, at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. At that time, President Donald Trump was giving a speech in front of thousands of supporters. Suddenly, a gunman fired live ammunition at President Trump from a high vantage point. The bullet flew toward President Trump's head, but as he turned his head during the speech, it narrowly missed him. One audience member was killed and several injured at the scene. The United States was shocked, and fear of political violence spread quickly. The second incident happened in September 2024 at the Trump International Golf Club in Florida and is seen as much more premeditated. Checklists: identify and retain key details about each incident, maintain chronological order and correct names, events, remove repetitive or non-essential information, ensure meaning and speaker perspective are preserved, shorten content by up to 17%. The suspect hid in bushes near the scene from early dawn, waiting for President Trump's movements for nearly 12 hours. He was armed with an assault rifle but could not attack when Trump's route changed. Afterwards, security authorities investigated possible leaks of the president's travel routes. The third incident occurred in February 2026 at Trump's Florida residence, where an armed suspect tried to trespass but was shot and killed by Secret Service. American media noted this showed Trump's security was being tested. The fourth incident was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where an armed suspect with a gun and knife tried to breach security. The area was locked down and Trump placed under emergency protection. After the private residence, the range of threats expanded to national event venues. And the fifth incident is the recent White House shooting. Dozens of gunshots rang out right next to the White House, and reporters took cover on the ground and evacuated urgently. President Trump was inside the White House at the time. What makes American society most anxious right now is this: the repeated attempts at attacks. The locations and methods keep changing. This means that threats targeting the President of the United States are becoming increasingly bold. Now it even appears that President Trump's family members are being targeted. It is said that President Trump always keeps a letter addressed to Vice President J.D. Vance just in case. case. This is in preparation for situations where he cannot perform his duties normally due to assassination or other reasons. The letter, which contains instructions on how to respond if something happens to President Trump, is reportedly kept in his office at all times. The recipient of the letter is Vice President Vance because he is the first in line for succession in an emergency. The US Constitution states that if the president dies, the vice president takes over the presidency. So why do assassination attempts targeting President Trump keep happening? Reviewing the released investigation details, a few common points emerge. Most of the suspects were either mentally unstable or had strong resentment towards society. Analysts say that when political anger was added to this, it led to acts of violence. US investigators now focus more on homegrown radicalization than on organized international terrorism in many recent cases. In particular, President Trump is a figure who provokes very strong likes and dislikes in American political history. His supporters see him as a leader who makes America strong again, but the opposition perceives him as a dangerous politician who threatens democracy. The problem is that President Trump's own political style is also quite aggressive. He has often publicly criticized certain groups or individuals strongly and expressed hostility toward the opposing side. On topics like illegal immigration, the media, China, and the Middle East, he has often used very strong language. This approach has effectively rallied his supporters, but also provoked strong anger from opponents. American society is now experiencing severe political polarization. The conflict between Democratic and Republican supporters has also become extremely intense. Online, hate speech and threats directed at politicians are almost a daily occurrence. In this atmosphere, there are cases where mentally unstable individuals or those harboring anger towards society become excessively immersed in political messages, and some of them start to believe that they need to take action themselves. US intelligence agencies now see political extremism and lone wolf terrorism as top threats. Violence and assassination are never justified for any reason. Political opposition should be settled through elections and debate, but there's growing concern that emotions in American society are becoming too extreme. President Trump is central to the conflict, so US security agencies are taking the risk of more threats very seriously. President Trump has always actively used crisis situations to strengthen his political image. He often uses a political strategy where attacks actually strengthen his image as a leader. This was very evident during the 2024 shooting incident at the Pennsylvania rally. Even though a bullet grazed him and he was bleeding, this side of him was still clearly on display. President Trump immediately stood up and raised his fist, and he sent a message to his supporters that he would keep fighting. This scene shocked the entire United States and at the same time became a catalyst for strongly uniting Trump's supporters. In fact, at that time, the view that Trump would not buckle even under attack spread rapidly among American conservatives. It is highly likely that this recent White House shooting incident will follow a similar pattern. Soon after the incident, the White House communications director said President Trump would not stop, a phrase seen as politically significant. It is an attempt to emphasize the image that he is constantly under threat but will not back down. In fact, President Trump has long portrayed himself as a politician fighting against the American establishment. He has frequently called the media, the Democratic Party, international organizations, forces tied to illegal immigration, and protesters' forces attacking him, which has strongly rallied his supporters. Especially in situations like now, where the risk of assassination keeps recurring, there is a possibility that sympathy and solidarity among President Trump's supporters will become even stronger. This is because people may think he is fighting even when his life is at risk. In American conservative communities, the idea that Trump is being attacked for trying to change America is spreading quickly after this incident. On the other hand, those opposed to Trump are concerned that this incident could actually be used for political purposes. They note that even the risk of assassination is increasing political tension in America.